my session. So I'm going to be sharing a whiteboard with you all. We're going to do a general overview because you mentioned, this is the topic we're dealing primarily with during the course of 2 days of stress. But there's so much that kind of goes on. So when it comes to, we're going to talk specifically about weight release and also health, because oftentimes, as I said, a weight is a symptom that something is out of alignment within the body. It could be physical, it could be your gut health, it could be stress, it could be a host of other things. So let's just talk about some things that can be going on. We're going to actually do a little game, and we're going to do the traffic light system. And this is just to bring awareness to you. We cannot change, tweak, or modify things of which we are not aware. So this little game is going to help you to bring more awareness. We're going to use a traffic light system. So red would mean you're not doing any of this at all. Nothing at all in that area. Yellow would mean you either just started or you're doing it, but you're really not consistent. And I really need to be more consistent. Green means everything is great, you're consistent, you're taking action, there's no issues. Or if you had issues, it's resolved. Like for instance, if you had gut issues and you went through a gut protocol and that's good, you're done. So let's start with eating. So when it comes to eating, Projected mentioned food sensitivities, right? So do you know if you have any food intolerances, also called sensitivities? And if you do know, are you staying away from those foods? Okay. When it comes to eating, sourcing, is it properly sourced? I'm talking organic, non-GMO. Because there are some brands that they might not have an organic line, spelled organic wrong, but they have a non-GMO line. Organic is optimal, non-GMO is best. So once again, when I look at things, I look at better, best, optimal. So is everything properly sourced for you with your food? With that comes, are you consuming less toxins? Toxins from, are you cooking with plastic? Are you using the microwave? Right? If you're not, and you're doing that consistently, you're green. If you're like, well, every so often, I use the microwave, maybe yellow, right? But toxins include your pesticides and herbicides. So that would include your sourcing. Toxins would also include your cookware, things that we put our food in. Glass is always best versus plastic, right? Using the microwave. So less toxins. Now, and if you need to, do you know if you are nutritionally depleted or not? Megan gave some information on supplements, and although it wasn't geared specifically toward nutrition, more stress, when she mentioned like B complex and magnesium, we can actually be nutritionally depleted in some of the things that some supplements that she'd mentioned, because either we're not getting it from our food because we're not eating those foods, or we're eating too much processed foods, or we're under stress and we're not uptaking it. So where are you when it comes to eating? If you're like, oh, most of these were yellow, you're averaging yellow on eating. If you're like, oh, I'm green all around, you're green. There's no orange. It's either red, yellow, or green. So I'm curious, put in the chat, where are you when it comes to eating? Another one is, are you eating food that is food? What I mean by food that is food. Food's definition, there's two parts to the definition of food. Food has nutrition, which means food has proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. But the second part of the definition of food, this is by Webster's Dictionary, by the way, we don't know about or we might have forgotten, which means food gives and sustains life. So are you eating food that is food, or are you eating food ingredients like sugar, like white flour foods? Food that is food. So we got yellows. Thank you so much for sharing. So it looks like for those who are participating, the average is yellow on eating. The average is yellow. Sometimes it's you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes it's you do know, but you're not taking action, right? So next, let's look at environment. We know that our environment definitely plays a role in our level of stress, right? So environment, we look at what is our stress? Are we properly managing our stress? We got to look at how are we sleeping? Are we sleeping? Per Centers for Disease Control, we should be sleeping 7 hours. But part of that 7 hours, we need at least an hour and a half in deep sleep is best. Optimal is 2 hours. But most women are barely getting maybe 30 minutes. If you're prone to wake up in the middle of the night, what often happens is you're waking up either right as you're getting into deep sleep or shortly after. And so we need to go through the phases of sleep all over again to get into deep sleep. So also includes less toxin exposure when it comes to releasing weight and getting healthy. What does this look like? Toxins are in our skin is the biggest organ of our body. It's in our shampoo, it's in our conditioners, it's in our makeup, it's in our cleaning products. It's in a lot of things. There are cleaner, healthier options out there. So, are you minimizing your toxic exposure to that? Are you a smoker? That comes into play as well. Then this one, which once again, I look at you as the whole woman that you are. We are our relationships. How are our relationships? Are we communicating appropriately? Because when it comes to relationships, it could actually lead to self sabotage. Because we sabotage because we're trying to maintain or keep relationship. That's where it comes down. So think about the last time we you went out to eat, maybe with some friends, maybe with family, and they're eating food that for you is just not the best. You know, you don't feel the best in your body, but they're all eating it. And then they're like, "Hey, don't you want some of this food?" And you're like, "Oh, okay, I'll get it." Oftentimes, below the surface, it's we say yes because we're trying to maintain relationship. Sometimes it occurs when we have a significant other, a spouse, and maybe happy hour is your time to get together. And the spouse or significant other is looking at you like, well, I guess we can't do that anymore because you're not eating those foods. So you're like, no, 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 we can still do it. You're trying to maintain relationships. So I'm curious when it comes to environments, are you red, yellow, or green? Red, yellow, or green? How's your sleep? How's your stress management? How's your toxic burden? Are you self-sabotaging in that area? We got a green, got some yellows coming up. Yellow, yeah. Red. Thank you for sharing. And it's okay if you're red, because once again, you can't tweak, change, or modify something of which you're not aware, right? So this is just to create awareness. So looks like the average of the room is yellow when it comes to environment. Work in progress. Yes, absolutely. So next, let's talk about hormones. Okay. Now, these hormones that I'm going to be sharing with you are hormones that come into play way before we hit perimenopause and menopause. Way before, and they do impact our weight and our health. Let's talk about leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is our appetite suppressant hormone. It tells us when we're full. Ghrelin, think growl. It's our hunger hormone. So if you can't tell when you're comfortably full, or if you feel like you're hungry all the time, potentially these two hormones are out of balance for you. Some women can't tell when they're hungry. They just feel full all the time. It could be a gut issue. It could be these are out of balance. It could be all the above. Then let's talk about two other ones. Let's talk about cortisol, which we've mentioned. that stress hormone. And let's talk about human growth hormone. Human growth hormone helps us to burn fat more efficiently. It's an anti-aging hormone. It helps us to build lean muscle mass. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Yes, we actually do want cortisol in an immediate stress situation. We need that immediate energy from the sugar that is cortisol. We need it. But most of us are under more of a chronic, like 5, 6 out of a 1 to 10 scale of stress. So we're not really utilizing that sugar. So now we got some blood sugar potentially instability going on. These two, human growth hormone and cortisol, which are both hormones, are what's called inversely proportional, meaning if one is high, the other will be low, and vice versa. Human growth hormone, as much as 75% of human growth hormone, is released in deep sleep. So if you're not getting into deep sleep or you're not getting enough deep sleep, then your body's not releasing the full 75% of human growth hormone. And then if you're high on cortisol, your human growth hormone is naturally going to be low. Yeah. So then there's insulin. Most of the women that I work with, when they come to me, their body, they're so used to eating a lot of carbohydrates and sugar type foods that their body releases a lot of insulin. And so they have these crashes because their body's releasing too much insulin. If you have so many years of this, you're in insulin resistance. You're not metabolizing, your metabolism is slower, you're gaining weight, it's difficulty to lose weight. So we got to balance blood sugar so we can take care of the insulin, take care of your pancreas that releases insulin. When it comes to the female hormones, the only one I'm going to be talking about today is estrogen. Okay. And specifically when it comes to estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance, you might have heard about estrogen dominance in relation to cancer. However, estrogen dominance is also an indication of toxicity, not necessarily cancer. Like this happened to me about 3 years ago. I was estrogen dominant. And then when I looked at what was going on, I was a little bit toxic in my body because unless you live in a bubble, you really can't get away from toxins and chemicals. So what I do is I offloaded. I did some offloading with that, right? So how can you tell where you are at with these hormones? Well, if you're not sleeping well, you're potentially not releasing human growth hormone. If you're under stress, cortisol's high. If you're not able to gain muscle mass or keep your muscle mass, which is why I say throw out the scale, do something which is called an in-body, which you can get at a lot of gyms, chiropractor offices, functional medicine offices, where they look at your ratio on all of your extremities and your torso of percent fat versus lean muscle mass. Yeah, I see reds. Yeah, and that's okay if you're red. Once again, you can't tweak or modify what you don't know. Are you getting the idea that when it comes to this affects this, which affects this, and all three is going to affect the last one, or the last one's going to impact all three, which is mind. Rita hit the nail on the head with this one. Your identity. You cannot out diet, out eat, out action an identity if you have one that I can't lose weight. I can't release weight. I am my health issues. I work with women who have autoimmune issues. And when they come to me, they feel like they are their disease state. They look healthy on the outside, but if you have an autoimmune issue, you might look healthy on the outside, but inside you're a hot mess, right? And so they're coming from perspective like I am my disease state. So what is your mind? So what happens when it comes to most diets and even really good weight loss programs, right? I've worked in a clinic for a functional medicine provider, and oftentimes they just focus on the actions, right? You might go into your weigh-in, you might go to the clinic, and find out what's going on, and they like, okay, well, what's your food log? Like they're looking at what actions you've taken, but they're not asking the question, okay, so you ate a lot of sugar. How were your emotions this week? What was going on? Right? They never ask that. because before an action, there's always an emotion or a feeling. Always. You might be able to tap into it, like if you know I'm an emotional eater or a stress eater, but way before emotions are your thoughts. We think so many thoughts at any one given time, which is why if you go into another room to get something, you forget about it because you've thought too many thoughts in between, right? It's a little bit more difficult to catch the thoughts. All of this stems from your identity, okay? Our identity leads to our thoughts, which lead to our emotions, which leads to our actions. So if you're on a program where they're only looking at the actions and not looking at your thoughts, not looking at your identity, you might see some results. Let's be honest. We could all lose some pounds, release some pounds and inches, but it's the maintaining it that can be very difficult. And then you're like, here I go again. Once again, I can't keep this weight that I've released off. So if you just focus on actions, chances are you're going to go back to the yellow or red over here, the yellow or red over here, the yellow or red over here. Does that make sense? I'm curious how this is resonating with you. Yeah. So how are you with mind? We can tap into mind by our actions. If we're like inconsistent, we know what to do, but we're not doing it. Potentially yellow or red when it comes to that. If you see yourself as, like for me, I saw myself as a binge eater, even when I had stopped binge eating, but then I would go back to binge eating. Why? Because that was my identity. Saw myself as a binge eater as it's difficult to release and keep weight off. I was at my lowest weight ever and I gained it all back. Yeah. Yeah. So how would you like to know how to turn these yellows and reds into greens? How'd you like to know how to do that? Turn these yellows and reds into greens. They all interconnect, which is why I look at you as the whole woman. I look at your eating, I look at your environment, I look at your hormones, I look at your actions and your emotions and your thoughts and your identity. So if you are wanting to know how to turn these yellows and reds into greens, I highly recommend schedule a weight loss audit so I can help you navigate not only what to do, but how to do it. And I'll give you a 30-day game plan to get you started. If you click on the link and you don't find a time that works for you, let me know. You can either respond to the emails I've been sending out, or you can just directly message me in the chat and I'll open up my calendar for you. Okay. So there's definitely a way. It is definitely possible. Today and tomorrow, we're talking about stress. We talked a little bit about nutrition. We talked about supplements. But I've been in this business, this industry for over 20 years. It truly is healing work. And oftentimes it comes down to we are healing the mind, we are changing the identity, we're getting to the core root of what has been out of alignment so that you can take action and consistent action on the other areas that are out of alignment for you. I often say it is not your fault. You are not broken. It's just structure of identity and mind. So I highly recommend hop on the weight loss audit. We'll get you all set with a 30-day game plan for you. So I'm curious, were there any ahas for anyone where as we're talking this through, you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. Once again, don't get critical. It's looking at it with curiosity because we can't tweak or modify that of which we are not aware. This is just to bring awareness for you as well. Yeah, bring awareness for you. Yeah. And that's great, Janet. Good, good, good. Yes, it does. It is all interconnected. It is all interconnected. And a lot of weight loss programs and even really, diets, weight loss, even good diet, good weight loss programs. You're welcome, Judith. They focus on actions And they don't even, no one ever asked me, okay, well, what was your emotion before you ate all that sugar? Or what was the thought behind that? Which getting the thoughts a little more nuanced because we think so many thoughts during the day. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And don't forget, grab my 20 minutes weight loss method. This is the direct download. I don't need your email for that one. So if you struggle with mindless eating, this will help you to tap into a little bit more mindful eating. So we mentioned the eating. Part of that is mindful eating, intuitive eating. I'm not about cookie cutter things. I've got a lot of eating plans. However, I don't give my clients specific eating plans. Why? Because we need to find the food that your body thrives on, first off, because we mentioned food sensitivities and intolerances. Plus, there's also optimal food. For me, my body thrives on wild caught fish, loves it. I could eat like 136 grams of protein in that day with my protein shake and other forms of protein if I eat wild caught fish. Chicken and turkey, my body likes, kind of loves, but not as much as the wild caught fish. Pork, my body does not like, even though I do, my body does not. So, with discovering, part of it is we need to slow down and we need to do some mindful eating because the body does have the answer. You've just been programmed to not listen to the body or forgotten how to, or potentially you're too toxic in your body to hear the subtle signals that your body is giving you, which is why we talked about toxins and toxic burden. It is important to offload if you are toxic so that you can hear the symptoms your body is giving you. This happened to me, like I said, 3 years ago. Part of it was food sensitivities, part of it was my gut, part of it was histamine intolerance, and all of it came into play for me as well. So, any questions about anything that I've gone over so far that can help you navigate? I'm here to support you. You might can tell I'm very passionate about this. I'm very anti-dieting because dieting has done a disservice. You have been lied to when it comes to dieting because it's not just what you eat, how you eat, and how you move. It is so much more than that. We have to take in account your environment, your hormones, and your mind. And I was on a really good weight loss program, weight release program, very holistic, but didn't deal with this, which is why when I was at my lowest weight ever, which wasn't really a healthy weight, I gained it all back and then some, and then some as well. All right, so that's a way that you can turn those reds, yellows into greens because we need to tap into the thoughts, the emotions, the mind, the identity. Also, what's included in environment is movement. We have to move our body. Being sedentary is just as detrimental as if you were a smoker. Has anyone ever heard of that? Just as detrimental as if you were a smoker to your heart. We need to get movement. Part of the movement is we got to find the movement that is appropriate for your body because those who have certain autoimmune issues, you can't do certain exercises like cardio, things like that. You're going to stress your body out more, put more burden on your body. So we got to do the movement that's appropriate for you, which is why I'm always an advocate. If you're just starting out, if you don't know what to do, walking's really great, very low impact. Rebounding's good, promotes lymphatic drainage. Rebounders have those bars that you can hold on to. I rebound every morning. That's my thing. I love to rebound. Getting some fresh air and sunshine, going for a leisurely walk. Walking after meals is good too, helps promote digestion. Even if it's just what I call a driveway walk, going up and down your driveway just to get more movement in. If you're one that you're prone to overeat or you eat sugar after meals, getting away from the table, out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, taking a little bit of a driveway walk after meals can help you with that. Oftentimes, it's a ritual when it comes to dessert after meals because, especially if you grow up in a household where you have to have dessert after dinner, and it can become a ritual for you. So get another ritual. The Italians are really good about this. It's called passeggiato, and I probably just ruined that word, but after dinner, they go out on a leisurely walk, and it's actually a community thing in their neighborhood. It's a time to, get some community with neighbors and talk, and they do a leisurely walk after dinner time. as well. Make sure Jennifer. Awesome. I don't see any questions, but feel free throughout the presentations to once again ask any questions to gain any clarity. We are here to support you. Replays will be out later tonight. I'm just going to stop recording here.